Here's what's coming up on the program today. A Russian diplomat to the United Nations quits over the war in Ukraine as a Russian soldier is handed a life sentence for killing a Ukrainian civilian. Countries worry over the spread of monkeypox as the World Health Organization says there's been no evidence it has mutated. The U.S. receives its first shipment of baby formula from Europe amid a critical nationwide shortage. A big welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amarachi Ubani. A Russian diplomat at the United Nations, Boris Bondaryev, has quit over the war in Ukraine. Speaking to the BBC earlier, he said the reason he quit was because he strongly disagreed and disapproved of what his government is doing and has been doing at least since February. He did not want to be associated with it any longer. He said it was a case of when, not if, he was going to quit, and he did not see any other alternative. He says despite being shocked by the Russian invasion, he did not believe his feelings are widespread in the foreign ministry. Meanwhile, Ukraine's deputy prime minister has called for the international community to help it lift the blockade of Ukraine's seaports to allow it to export the millions of tons of grain stuck in its silos. Yulia Ziridenko hinted that Ukraine needed guarantees from partners to be able to make the exports and to make them on a regular basis. Ukraine's inability to export its grain has led to food prices rising around the world and raised the prospect of famines in countries which depend on its exports. Well, earlier today, the verdict was pronounced on a young Russian soldier, Vadim Shishirmarin. He was just 21 years old. He was been accused of killing a civilian, an unarmed civilian, in Ukraine just shortly after the invasion of Ukraine. That was on February 28th. This trial, the criminal trial, the first in Ukraine, has been ongoing since last week. The VOA's Anna Chenikova joins us now for more. Anna, great to see you. And I do understand, well, this may seem like a major victory for some, major relief for others, so maybe some recompense on behalf of those who've lost someone in the invasion. What are Ukrainians making of this verdict?
First step, because of course Ukrainians understand that this is not the last. And Ukrainians are waiting for next court cases because today tomorrow is actually 3 months of the full-scale war, and since the first day, since February 24, the entire Ukrainian law enforcement system has been investigating all Russian war crimes. So Ukrainians definitely waiting for more cases, and this one is a kickoff, is a start, and it's definitely positive, of course, within the Ukrainian society. So today, court in Kyiv handed down the first conviction of war crime, and as you said, Russian serviceman Vadim Shishirmarin, accused of killing a civilian in Sumy region at the beginning of the invasion, was sentenced to life in prison. I should say that this case is showing very well, the whole Ukrainian fight for independence, because this case includes also a lot of actions from the civilians in the Sumy region who actually helped and were very much involved in helping to catch these Russian soldiers. If we go into more details, the court found evidence against Shishirmarin and concluded that the murder was premeditated. So the court rejected all the defense's arguments that Shishirmarin had allegedly carried out the order, because the order was not given by his commander. It was given by another soldier who has higher rank than he. And it definitely was itself a criminal order. So the court also did not consider the defendant's remorse as sincere. And also, well, Shishmarin was found guilty of violating the laws and customs of war. And this is crime, this is international crime, and therefore it makes it particularly serious. What also should be added that both widow of the victim and also the prosecution was asking for life sentence. However, the wife of the victim, the widow of the victim, she said that she would not mind if Shishmarin would be exchanged for the Azovstal defenders, for Mariupol defenders.
Wow, wow, Anna, and it's pretty hard to be sympathetic with Shishimari, isn't it? I mean, when you consider the atrocities that the Russian soldiers have allegedly perpetrated in Ukraine, you know, these people really weren't just following orders the way they seem to be doing this from their hearts. And to the issue of, you know, the exchange of prisoners, I don't know, is Ukraine even considering any of that, you know, as punishment? I mean, he did commit a crime, though, so that doesn't even come up in this instance, right?
Well, for the moment, we don't really have, you know, any, you know, official comments if he could be exchanged, because exactly as you said, the court convinced him, and basically he got this, you know, life imprisonment. So I think that, well, what it comes about the Azovstal defenders and Mariupol defenders and exchange procedure that should start, everyone hopes for that, and according to official comment that it should start at one point. It is very important for Ukraine to exchange Mariupol defenders. So maybe this could be considered, again, taken into consideration that this is what the widow of the victim said. And I think that it would be also a certain, you know, social decision on that. But again, we'll see. I would like just to highlight that Mariupol defenders exchange procedure is extremely important. So it might be that all different kind of opportunities would be considered and would be included for negotiation.
Indeed, Anna, and thanks for pointing that out. Well, you've already talked us through the symbolism, you know, of this trial in Ukraine is the first, and it's quite a milestone, isn't it, that the trial is taking place just as the war is also taking place in other parts of Ukraine. So are there other Russian soldiers who will also be facing war crimes charges at this trial?
Surely there are a lot of cases under the investigation. Ukrainian officials and prosecution office do not give and provide any particular details because this is under the brief of secret. But we definitely know that this is ongoing, and all the investigations are taking place with international partners and with international organizations involved. So definitely, Ukrainian society is waiting for more court cases, and well, we'll see. But I think that this would be quite soon. Well, I mean, there were no official announcement or anything like that yet, but this is what what society is waiting for.
And the Ukrainians consider this justice for the war?
You know, we cannot bring back those people who were killed, and we cannot bring back, you know, the happiness for the families who lost their loved ones. But definitely, this is the way to go, because the crimes, and especially such war crimes as we witness here in Ukraine, should definitely be, you know, bring to court and should be judged in the international way, in the way of the international justice.
Anna, those attacks are still continuing in Ukraine, aren't they? We're hearing that there is intensified shelling in the Donbas region. Tell us about it.
Yeah, very, very difficult situation in Donbas, especially Luhansk region, because, for the past couple of days, Ukrainian military officials, they divide Donetsk region and Luhansk region in particularly, because we can see that most of the fighting, the heaviest, I should say, fightings are happening around Severodonetsk, and this is Luhansk region. What we definitely can see from the tactics that Russian armed forces are using for the moment, they want to get to the administrative borders of the Luhansk region, and this is quite clear. They try to surround Severodonetsk, and because Severodonetsk is now under Ukrainian control, so they try to surround. They bring all different type of military equipment there, and according to military experts and according to the intelligence, we also witnessed that basically Russian forces are bringing everything they have left, everything which is left in their disposal. So the most powerful equipment is accumulated in this region. And yes, the last couple of days and especially nights are extremely tough. We just have to wait and see how all this would be going, because there is no particular progress, great progress from both sides. So it's basically fighting on the front line, and Russian forces are they're moving a little bit, but it's not that tactical achievements yet. So we just have to wait and see.
And I remember over the weekend, the Ukrainian officials did put on display those Russian tanks which had been captured and which had been destroyed in the course of the war. President Zlenski was addressing the World Economic Forum today, and he talked about crippling the Russian economy, and he does not believe any maximum measures are currently taking place. The EU did announce a new round of sanctions about 2 weeks ago. Doesn't that say something about the efforts being made, though?
According to Mr. Zlenski, and this is what also we can clearly see, that definitely efforts are undergoing, and we can see that EU is trying to do their best to come into the agreement. Again, it was not agreement yet, because there are a lot of negotiations within the countries of the European Union. Effort is great, and effort is really huge, and this is for sure, and Ukraine is very thankful for that. And President Zelensky highlighted that Ukraine and Ukrainian society in particular are extremely thankful for all the help. What he also mentioned, which is quite important, and it's of course important not only for Ukraine, but for any country and for the future especially, that such actions are great and even better if they are preventing. So he highlighted that such actions could have been done to prevent, and unfortunately, Ukraine now is dying every day and losing a lot of people every day, because such kind of actions were not considered before to prevent. But again, we have a very tough situation, and of course, European and international support is very, very important, and it's crucial for this war. President Zelensky also mentioned and thanked certain countries who already confirmed that they will help to rebuild Ukrainian cities, and he invited other countries to join. He also mentioned military help that Ukraine already received and continue to receiving, and he asked for to continue these efforts, because this is what makes Ukraine win at the battlefield, and this is basically the main negotiation table, the battlefield in this war. He also encouraged international community to punish Russia through leaving Russian markets by the international companies, and also by arresting Russian capitals around the world and to use these capitals to help rebuild Ukraine. So, this is quite, like he just suggested it as, a general roadmap, I should say. And he also proposed to create an organization that would help in Ukraine, together with Ukrainian corporations, that would help to prevent starvation, because we know that because of the Russian aggression and the war that is happening, a lot of countries do not receive enough food, and which is importing from Ukraine, the Ukraine exports, and this is a huge problem, global problem, and Ukraine should definitely do something with it together with international community. And I think that one of the most important things that he said was that we should not wait for a fatal strike from Russia. We should do everything now, whatever we can, all together.
Yeah, and it sounds like he's mentioning everything short of an invasion of Russia itself. Anna, the Deputy Prime Minister this morning probably re-echoed what President Zlenski said, about the food that's not getting to people, getting to other parts of the world like it should. She mentions the blockades of Ukraine's seaports, and she wants those blockades lifted, appealing to the international community to do that. But what's been happening, with the grains and the food that's stuck at these ports because they're unable to be airlifted or moved out because of the blockade by Russia?
Well, yeah, this is a huge problem because it's quite a long time now that this food is actually there, and it could just get, it just can, be destroyed by the time, and more time it takes, worse it is for this particular product. And this is now, for the moment, this is the main, I should say, the main point of negotiations between the highest officials from Ukraine and around the world. And what we know from the official sources, because there are no particular, a lot of official information on that. I think this is quite, also quite internal information. But what we know is that there are talks between Ukraine and its international partners, including US and EU, for deblockade of the Black Sea, because this is extremely important for the whole world. And as you already mentioned, a lot of countries are suffering from that. And this should be done very quick because again, food can just expire, and that's it.
Right, Anna, thank you so much. You have been our eyes in Ukraine all this while. Thank you for speaking to us, and do stay safe.
Thank you.
Well, just to buttress what Anna was saying earlier about the captured soldier Vadim Shishimarin, he was convicted of killing Alexander Shalipov, a 62-year-old civilian, in the northeastern village of Chupakiva on February 28th. He did admit, though, shooting Shalipov, but said he'd been acting on orders and asked forgiveness of the man's widow. In the meantime, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is in Africa on a 3-nation tour. While in Senegal over the weekend, he said Germany wants to intensively pursue gas and renewable energy projects in the country. His 3-day visit comes against the backdrop of war in Ukraine and its impact on energy and food prices. Germany is seeking to reduce its heavy reliance on Russian gas. He told a press conference, just as he stood with President Macky Sall, as far as the question of energy cooperation is concerned, it is very broad. It is about renewable energy. The president referred to this in terms of storage capacity, solar and wind energy. But of course, it is also about cooperation in terms of using the natural gas resources that Senegal has. Senegal has billions of cubic meters of gas reserves and is expected to become a major gas producer in the region. President Macky Sall says Senegal is ready to work towards supplying the European market with liquefied natural gas. He forecasts Senegal's LNG output reaching 2.5 million tons next year and 10 million tons by 2030. Mr. Scholz continues his trip to Niger before a final leg in South Africa. Well, still ahead on the program, as the UK prepares to announce more cases, we'll be speaking to more cases of monkeypox, that is. We're speaking to an expert on the source, the spread and prevention. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching The World Today on Channels Television. The UN Refugee Agency says more than 100 million people have been driven from their homes across the globe, propelled by waves of violence, persecution, or protracted conflicts in countries. That new data from the UNHCR shows that the number of forcibly displaced people worldwide rose towards 90 million by the end of 2021. In addition, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has displaced 8 million people within the territory of Ukraine this year, while more than 6 million refugee movements from the country have been registered so far. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Philippe Edelwe, describes the figures as stark, alarming and sobering, and says it's a record that should never have been set. He says to reverse the trend, the only answer is peace and stability so that innocent people are not forced to gamble between acute danger at home or precarious flight and exile. Turn our attention now to the monkeypox infection around the world. The World Health Organization has been holding a meeting all morning discussing the spread of the infection. German Health Minister Karl Lauterbach said the worldwide outbreak is so unusual it's a cause for concern. He's also an epidemiologist. He told reporters this morning that quick and decisive action is required in order to contain the spread of the virus. He told them, I urge all those who had anonymous sex with men to be vigilant and to pay attention and to possible changes on their skin, to take fever seriously and to quickly seek medical assistance in the case of a suspicion. Well, he also says he had contacted makers of a vaccine specifically designed for monkeypox, but that a vaccination for the general public is not being discussed in Germany, but that the country will play a very special role in restoring and improving Ukraine's health system. And preparations are underway because of the war in Ukraine, which they feel might also impact the distribution of the vaccines and containing the spread of the monkeypox virus. Now, just a little bit about monkeypox, though. Experts have been talking, of course, all morning about the huge amount that is required already, the huge amount about monkeypox already. But there's a suggestion that perhaps not enough research has been carried out to keep pace with this current outbreak. What's puzzling, they say, is that it spread so widely outside of Africa. It's simply the result of a super spreader event, they ask. Well, it would mean that lots of people mixing closer together are passing the virus on to others whenever they travel next. So no one is sure what particular event could have been the cause of the monkeypox virus infections, but there have been warnings that summer festivals could even spread the virus even further. Infections control experts from Europe have issued their advice and thoughts on the monkeypox situation. They agree that while the disease is usually mild, some people can get more seriously ill. That includes young children, pregnant women, and people with weakened immune systems. Further investigations, they say, is needed to accurately estimate the level of threat that the monkeypox virus presents. And if so, if there's a risk, the virus could become endemic in Europe. U.S. President Joe Biden says the U.S. has enough smallpox vaccines, which is where experts are looking to now, to deal with an outbreak of the monkeypox. A smallpox jab offers some protection against monkeypox, since both viruses are quite similar. Well, back to the World Health Organization. It's been saying it expects to identify more cases of monkeypox as it expands surveillance in countries where the disease is not typically found, and that it does not have evidence the monkeypox virus has mutated. The WHO's Emerging Diseases and Zoonosis lead and technical lead on COVID-19, Maria van Kerkhove, told a social media event, as surveillance expands, we expect that more cases will be seen. There are already more than 100 suspected and confirmed cases in the recent outbreak in Europe and in North America that have not been severe. Those outbreaks are typical, according to the WHO, as they are occurring in countries where the virus does not regularly circulate.
We don't yet have evidence that there's mutation in the virus itself.
Being on social media and
And what we are seeing are cases being detected in the communities of men having sex with men, who identify as having sex with men. But as surveillance expands, we expect that more cases will be seen. But we do need to put this into context because it's not COVID. So we have so far seen, and I don't actually have the exact numbers at hand because we're learning more even as we sit here, but we're talking about less than about 200 cases of confirmed and suspected cases so far. So that may change over time. So this is really important why we have surveillance and why we have raised an alert to say, okay, we need to be on the lookout for this in countries that don't typically experience monkeypox.
So there are 57 cases of monkeypox in the United Kingdom. 36 of those have been reported in England. A chief medical advisor for UK Health Security Agency, Dr. Susan Hopkins, says the risk of monkeypox to the general public remains extremely low.
Really, this is a new infectious disease that's spreading in our community that we haven't seen in our communities before. Therefore, we will need to learn a lot about it, both here and in other countries, over the coming weeks. There are certain individuals who are much more at risk of severe disease, particularly immunosuppressed individuals or young children. In adults, we think it's relatively mild, but again, we will learn more. The vast majority of people get better by themselves with supportive treatment, taking some painkillers if needed, drinking fluids, etc. The risk to the general population remains extremely low at the moment, and I think people need to be alert to it. We really want clinicians to be alert to it and send the test if they're concerned. From the point of view of the general population, I think the important things that we talk about regularly, if you're feeling unwell, stay at home and avoid contact with others. If you develop a rash, immediately seek medical care. We'll be releasing updated numbers tomorrow with the over the weekend figures. We are detecting more cases on a daily basis. People develop a rash. The rash is usually on the face or the hands or the arms, and it can go to the genital area. It starts as a sort of red spots and then moves into vesicles. Those are little blister-type lesions that look a little bit like chickenpox, and then they scab over, and once the scabs have fallen off, people are no longer infectious.
Joining us now is pathologist with the UK National Health Service, Dr. Philippe Edelwe. He joins us from the UK. Dr. Edelwe, thank you for joining us today on the program. We appreciate your patience. We've been talking about the situation in the UK, 57 cases, 36 in England. What was the source of the monkeypox infection in the UK?
I think thank you very much for having me. The first case was reported, I think, on the 7th of this month, and it was said to have been from someone who traveled into London from Nigeria. And that one single case was picked up and was being adequately managed. But as you expect, once these kind of rare diseases are picked up, especially infectious diseases, the relevant authorities will get on top and begin the process of monitoring, contact tracing, and all that. And that is really what has been happening. And I mean, I listened to Dr. Hopkins speaking about all that has been going on in the UK. And I think that over here, the government is really on top of monitoring the situation and trying to understand better how it is spreading, and being able to pick up anyone that is showing signs and symptoms, and of course, be able to confirm those that are really, really true cases. I mean, in a situation like this, you are going to have panic, and therefore you are going to have negative, false positives. People who just feel unwell, and they panic and think that they now suddenly have monkeypox. And again, the name, of course, on its own is frightening, because people will ask themselves, how is it that they are getting a virus from an animal? But I think that with the way the agency here is handling the situation, I think that it is being dealt with appropriately. The other point one would like to make, again, that speaks to what Dr. Hopkins says, is that Virologists will tell you that the monkeypox virus is a rather stable virus. It first discovered in monkeys as far back as early 50s, in Zaire, now the DRC, and first human case picked up in the 70s. Very few cases have been picked up or seen to infect humans, as you quoted from the numbers you have cited. But also, despite this long history, there is no documented evidence of mutation. So it's a stable virus, and I think that the chances are that it will be controlled exist. But we now live in a globalized world, and we are people. We interact more closely now compared to the time past. Whether you are on the airplane or on the bus, or the London area is very densely populated, so people travel on the trains, buses, and there is such a close contact between human beings. So I think that is probably what is responsible for this spread.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned, that it was first, detected here in Africa, and the first case in the UK, of course, they detected from someone who came from Nigeria. But there are no cases in Nigeria as yet, as we speak, no known cases of the monkeypox infection. But countries, of course, in Africa are also concerned whether they should be closing their borders, to these other countries where you have infections. But Dr. Edelwe, how fast does the infection spread, and how does it spread? I mean, with COVID, we know, if someone is infected, it's an airborne disease. If a person sneezes beside you, or you get in contact with someone who already has the virus, you could contract COVID. With monkeypox, how exactly does it spread?
In terms of human to human, it is via close contact. So it has to be that you are directly in contact with the person who has it. The body fluids of individuals who have it. So it's not a droplet infection. It's not like like COVID or like the flu virus. That people sneeze and all that, and it gets transmitted. That is the fraud. But in terms of animal to man, usually through rodents, mouse, mice, squirrels, and things like that. That is how they think that is jumped to the human population. But there is very little known about this in terms of, well, let me not say very little, but little is known about it in terms of its epidemiology. And this is because it is a rare disease. I think that this is the first time that you will probably see in documented epidemiology where you have this large outbreak, occurring at one time. Instead, you have sporadic incidences here and there in time past. But that speaks to the world in which we live today. We are in a 21st century world where we are constantly intermingling with one another. So I think that for Nigeria, one thing that I would say about Nigeria is that when I travel into the country, I think that we have very robust infectious disease control mechanisms at the ports. Sometimes for those of us who travel into the country from outside, it's very annoying because they ask you all kinds of questions and they tell you to fill that form and fill this form. But I think that is something that I usually take note of, because even entering the banks or places like that, you find that they put sanitizers on your hands. You look out and you see places where they have hand washing systems in place, particularly at the airport, which I think is very good for a country such as ours, where we are resource poor. So it tells me one thing, and this is what Nigeria has consistently been praised for, our capacity to deal with infectious diseases. I think that we don't praise ourselves enough in that regard, but we have seen in time past how even the international experts have spoken to this reality, that dealing with taking the basic steps of hand washing, of ensuring that you don't get in, you don't put yourself in apparent danger. If somebody has blisters, for instance, you don't want to be staying in contact with them. So it means that we just need to be on the lookout. But I think that if we follow the basic rules of primary health care and preventative medicine, I think that we should be good. So I don't think that it's something that needs to be done outside of what is already in place by our, disease care experts. As I see them when I come into the country, sometimes, as I say, you look at all these places and people take them for granted, but I think that they are very good decisions being made in view of our state of healthcare.
Doctor.
For people who are not used to it, it could be annoying, but I think that it's safer to go that way.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for saying that, Dr. Edelwe. And we're hearing that, smallpox also presents just in the same way as monkeypox does. So how can we tell the difference, and how do you know when you have which?
I think, let me say this, Amarachi. The first thing is to say that, yes, the pox family, is large. You have smallpox, you have chickenpox, you have this monkeypox. Smallpox evidentially has been eradicated. So, and that was years ago. I think as far back as the 70s, the WHO had announced that smallpox had been eradicated, and that happened because of aggressive vaccination processes that took place. The common pox virus that we probably can think about today is the chickenpox, which in terms of how it presents, like body pains, temperatures, and all that. But the blisters or the spread in the body is very different from what happens with monkeypox. Listening to Dr. Hopkins, she mentions specifically, with chickenpox in the face, in the hands, or in the genitalia, whereas with chickenpox all over the body, and it's very, very itchy. Chickenpox tend to be a lot more itchy, and commoner in the younger people, in children. It's not so common. It can occur in adults, but not so common in adults. And as we are seeing from the pattern of presentations with this monkeypox, you can see that it is commoner in adults. There is the red flag that has been raised about men having sex with men, but I don't think that is anything unique. I think it's just down to the fact that close contact, touchy feelings, and all that kind of thing. I think that is just it. I don't think it's anything to do with particular sexual behavior, but that is my view. I think that it's just the fact that these people probably are not paying attention to what they should pay attention. So in terms of differentiating chickenpox from monkeypox, it is the fact that chickenpox tend to be generalized all over the body. It tend to be itchy. It's commoner in children. Of course, it can occur in adults, where in terms of severity, it tends to be more severe in adults as well. That is chickenpox. But with monkeypox, it's a rare disease. This is the epidemiologic fact. It's a rare disease. It's uncommon. We are having an outbreak now, and therefore everyone is concerned. But even when it does happen, the lesions that occur tends to be more on the face, in the hands. It's not so itchy. But on top of that, they tend to be enlarged glands, that is lymph nodes, around the body. So I think that if doctors or healthcare practitioners and nurses and all these persons are able to identify these basic differentiations, we should be able to separate them and be able to give appropriate treatment to each and every case.
Dr. Philippe Edelwe, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. We have learned a lot from you.
Thank you very much, Marachi, for having me. Thank you.
Coming up after the break. The Senegalese capital celebrates the start of the African Contemporary Art Biennial. Stay with us. Welcome back to The World Today. A massive shipment of roughly 39 tons of baby formula landed in the U.S. city of Indianapolis on a military aircraft on Sunday, arriving from Germany as the White House tries to address the critical shortage. It also announced that a second flight has been arranged. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, who greeted the plane, said around 17,000 children will benefit from this batch of formula. Now, in February, a recall of top baby formula maker Abbott Laboratories and the closing of its manufacturing plant in Michigan created one of the biggest baby formula shortages in recent history for U.S. families. One person, a mother of a 7-month-old infant, Megan Gending, with a dairy allergy, said the delivery was a big relief for her. Our correspondent Maria Bird is in Washington, from where she's tracking the whole event. Maria, you have children of your own. I know, well, they're grown now, but what does it feel like, knowing that you go to the store and you can't get hold of baby formula?
You're exactly correct. This has caused a major concern for many mothers across the country. Many mothers that I know personally have been all over the country looking for baby formula, having individuals go to stores that have shortages, obviously, and having things shipped across the country. And even as we know now, it's coming in from Germany on military flights. But individuals who know others internationally have been bringing in baby formula. So this just goes to show you that the U.S. is extremely underprepared at this time to support the needs of many of those mothers. As you said, I'm a mother myself. My youngest is 5, so I'm a little far removed from baby formula, but I cannot imagine how this would be, especially as we still are in the midst of COVID and we're seeing increase in COVID with many Americans. So people are just, mothers have quite a bit of anxiety at this time.
Yeah, and this happened way back in February with the shutting of those factories. So imagine that for 2 months, mothers have been looking for baby formula for their children. So what have been the alternatives for them?
The alternatives for many mothers have been to go to their local pediatricians, because some of the pediatricians do have extra stocks of baby formula. They are also advising mothers to not water down the formula because it actually makes the baby sick. There have been a number of infants hospitalized because mothers have either tried to make their own formula or they have watered down the formula they do have, trying to stretch it out a little bit further. And so right now, the real goal is that Americans are able to, one, not overbuy. So if you do have enough formula for your child, do not go to the store and buy additional canned baby formula, and to ensure that everyone is able to have ample availability of formula, and if you are in desperate need, to go into your pediatrician.
And while the government is, receiving, these aid packages and this shipments from Germany and other European countries, what else is being done in the United States to meet up with the shortage?
Well, the White House is looking to see how they can obviously reopen the plant that has been shut down. They're also looking to how they can escalate and help many of these companies to be able to provide additional formula, so the production rates, the increase of production rates. And the White House is going to continue to look overseas. There's another shipment that is due in this week, and so they're going to continue to look to see if there are any partners overseas can continue to support this. The White House is definitely on its way. Even today, the White House is having many briefings on how they plan to address this issue further.
This mother, which we should have heard earlier, Megan Gendig, she says she has an infant with a dairy allergy. How difficult can it be finding the right formula for your child, especially when they have allergies to certain ingredients in the formula?
That is a very major concern, I think, for many doctors, because you're exactly correct. Individuals who are just trying to buy a formula, they might not be as cognizant of those who need specific types of formula. So as individuals are stocking up on their own formula, they could actually be harming and providing and making a shortage even greater for those who need a specific type. And so there are dairy-free, there are gluten-free. I mean, there's a host of different types of formulas that the U.S. has for those individuals. And so for those babies particularly, they are definitely advising that they seek medical attention to ensure that the child is not in any danger.
And Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says this first shipment would benefit around 17,000 children. And we know some children can really eat, Maria. So that probably just go for a day or two, or probably 3 days at most. What are the other plans in place? You know, will there be more shipments? And from which other countries is the United States looking to get those shipments from?
Well, the European Union is one that obviously the U.S. is looking to partner with. So they're expecting to get a couple more shipments in this week, even some as early as tomorrow or Wednesday. So those plans are already in place. And as you said as well, some children cannot eat without formula. So they are also advising parents of children that are able to actually have food and can potentially take regular milk to transition their child to those to ensure that the infants that are not able to eat at this time are able to receive the nutrients they need from the formula.
Well, hopefully we can get the formulas to those children as soon as possible. Maria, thanks for joining us, and say hello to your kids for me. In other news now, U.S. President Joe Biden has been on a tour of Asia. He was in Japan yesterday. Today he said he would be willing to use force to defend Taiwan in a series of critical comments about China he made in Tokyo that an aide said represented no change in U.S. policy on the self-ruled island. And when a reporter asked President Biden during a joint news conference with Japanese leader Fumio Kishida if the United States would defend Taiwan if it were attacked, President Biden answered yes. His comments, made during his first visit to Japan since taking office, appear to be a departure from existing U.S. policy of so-called strategic ambiguity on Taiwan. But China considers the democratic island of its territory part of its one China.
They're already flirting with danger right now by flying so close and all the maneuvers that are undertaken. But the United States is committed. We've made a commitment. We support the one China policy. We support all that we've done in the past. But that does not mean that China has the ability, the jurisdiction to go in and use force to take over Taiwan. So we stand firmly with Japan and with other nations not to let that happen. And my expectation is it will not happen. It will not be attempted. And my expectation is a lot of it depends upon just how strongly the world makes clear that that kind of action is going to result in long-term disapprobation by the rest of the community.
And as we end the program, the 14th edition of Senegal's Biennial of African Contemporary Art opens in the capital, Dakar, marking the start of a month of exhibitions and events across the city. Local artist Fally Sine Soul, one of the 59 artists showcasing their work at the main exhibition hall, speaks about his vision and work as he makes final preparations ahead of opening night.
As the international art world flocks to Dakar for its much-anticipated biennale, Senegalese artist Fally Sine Soul just has to look out the window to find inspiration in the colorful and chaotic market streets outside his studio in the capital. The 34-year-old is one of 59 artists or collectives officially selected for the exhibition. Expectations are heightened by the fact that the Biennale, Dakar's 14th, is being held 2 years late after the coronavirus pandemic forced a postponement in 2020. Soul has spent the last 3 years preparing for the show, gathering scraps and discarded building materials for his miniature street tableau, and delicately painting ramshackle market scenes onto glass for his updated take on traditional Senegalese sauveur art.
To be honest, it was the work I was supposed to do for the Off Festival, Kouliban Markets, to explain and show a bit of daily life, everything that goes on there. When the Biennale was cancelled, I superimposed the buildings and we waited. In the meantime, I saw nature reacting on this.
Art lover Ifoma Dile expresses her joy for his pieces.
It's mind-blowing. I have the goosebumps just looking at all this, and how long it must have taken him to create this in this space is amazing. It's mind-blowing.
Saul says he wants the work to mirror real life outside his store, including its puddles and the clouds of exhaust that trail behind the exuberantly painted local buses. His intended audience is not the critics, but people in his neighborhood.
And that's the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.